It's that time of the year again, close to the holiday season, where an endless line of ads churn forward on the TV, radio, and in print. Goods and services are portrayed with a slick overlay, catchy music, and with a promise of how much you'll save if you choose them over their competitor. Yep, looks like the election season is well underway. What? Wait a minute, you thought I was talking about all the businesses that pay millions of dollars to broadcast advertisements for their goods and services? No, I was talking about government, the business no one talks about. As far as marketing goes, government advertises itself just like a business. Government has its own logos, its own slogans. Government even talks about discounts and how much you can save by switching to Geico. Switching to a certain political party, that is.
McCain's tax plan means another $3 trillion in debt. Ask yourself, can we afford John McCain?
We cut our spending. My legislature was 85% Democrat, and every one of the 4 years I was governor, we balanced the budget.
As far as marketing goes, government and businesses are essentially the same. But these similarities go far beyond just marketing. Why do you think government spends so much on marketing to begin with? Well, it's because they're trying to sell something. Let me explain. Government exists to provide a service, just like a business does. And the government has to provide this service to consumers, just like a business does. With government, it offers a service called social and moral stability. You, the taxpayer, wants to make sure that society is safe and stable based on what you believe safe and stable means. So you hire the government to do that for you. Instead of you going out and making sure society is safe and stable, you hire politicians you've probably never met and hope they fulfill those wonderful campaign promises from those slick TV ads. Now, why don't you go out and make sure society is safe and stable the way you'd like it to be? Well, you probably don't want to waste your time doing that. You'd rather go to Disneyland, sleep, or watch TV all day. Why waste your time making sure society is safe and stable when you can just hire politicians to do that for you? In essence, you are outsourcing personal and moral responsibility to obscure politicians you've never met in the hopes they'll fulfill their campaign promises. That is what voting is. That is what being a taxpayer means. That is what government is. So, you pay the government money, called taxes, and the government promises to provide the service of social and moral stability. If the government does a crappy job of providing this service, you can fire them by electing a different politician every few years. So you pay the money, taxes, for social and moral stability, the service, and they have to supply that service because you demand it. When it comes to government, you are no different than a consumer demanding a service, and government is the business that offers the service. Now, even with all of these similarities, there are a few differences, but they're huge differences, that distinguish government and make it the evil, tyrannical, and destructive force that it is. The primary difference between a business and government is that a business exists solely to make profits. The business knows this, and you, as the consumer, knows this too. There are no illusions here. If Walmart said, "We don't want to make money, we just want to make society socially and morally stable," well, you would immediately realize that was bullshit. Businesses exist to make profits, and we all know this. With government, however, it claims to not be interested in profits. In fact, government claims that it has the moral high ground, that it acts for altruistic and moral reasons, that it exists only to ensure the public welfare. It sounds peachy, doesn't it? And hell, that's why so many people hire government. Because it sounds so trustworthy and helpful, so egoless and altruistic.
I love you, you love me, we're a happy family.
But is this really true? No, it's a complete lie. Government can claim all it wants, that it is not interested in itself or money, but fundamentally it relies on itself and money to exist. Is government a non-for-profit agency? No, it relies on your taxes, money, to exist. Do politicians volunteer for free to do the work they do? No, they demand you pay them annual salaries, which include vacations and health benefits. Government is the business, politicians are the employees, social and moral stability is the service they provide, you are the consumer, and your taxes are the money. In that sense, government is identical to a business. But there's one thing that government has that businesses do not. The government has
guns. Lots of guns.
That's right. The government has guns, lots of guns, and they also have the moral high ground on their side. Where Walmart can only make profits by appealing to the consumer by offering them low prices and hoping that the consumers choose to buy things, the government can make profits by pointing a gun to your head, claiming they're moral, and then stealing the money from you through taxes. This is what taxes are. You don't have a choice in paying taxes. If you don't pay them, you go to jail. If you try to escape jail, they'll probably shoot you dead. The government has guns, which they call law enforcement officers, and the government points those guns at us and claims that what they're doing is moral and for the greater good, and then you have no choice in paying them. It is tyranny, it is evil, it is thuggish, and it is as close to an episode of The Sopranos you can get without calling it the mafia.
Don't do it!
So let's define what a business and a government is. A business is an institution that offers a product or service to others for a certain price. A government is an institution that offers a product or service to others for a certain price, but also uses guns, law enforcement officers, and moral high grounds to force people to comply and then steal money from the consumers, taxpayers, you. Where a business can only make money by voluntarily transacting with customers who want and choose to spend their money, the government can simply claim it's moral and then use guns, law enforcement, to steal the money from you. Even if you think that what the government does with your money is right, that doesn't change the fact that you had to steal from your neighbor at gunpoint and the threat of violence to do it. Are you willing to point the gun yourself at your neighbor and take his or her money without persuading them to voluntarily donate it to your cause? I think not. It's very easy to pay someone else to do it for you, isn't it? But once you give the government the power to force others to give up their money, then that means government might one day come knocking on your door to take your money for warfare, welfare, or whatever other atrocities you oppose. A business is peaceful and good because ideally it does nothing but serve the self-interest of people, assuming the business does not act corruptly, obviously. The business wants to make profits, and the consumer wants to buy the good or service. In a business transaction, the self-interest of both the business and the consumer is honored. In a government transaction, the self-interest of one group of people, the taxpayers, you, is sacrificed for the self-interest of the government. Of course, the government pretends it's not in their self-interest when they take your money. They pretend they're acting morally and altruistically. But of course, that's a lie, because altruism is impossible anyways. It is so clear that government is very much like a business, yet departs from the peaceful and voluntary transactions of a business when it starts using force. Any business with a $16 trillion debt would be out of business immediately, but not if that business has guns like our government. Any business that so consistently failed in fulfilling its promises would be accused of false advertising, but not if that business has guns like our government. Any business that uses guns to make its profit against the will of the consumers would be persecuted by the cops, but not if that business owns the cops, like our government does.